Hello, everyone. My name is Alicia Solara, and I'm an English tutor here at Preply. I am going to describe some of my study methods that I've been using these last couple of days to practice my introduction for week one. So, as you've probably seen, my week one video was pretty much introducing myself, why I want to learn Spanish, what are some future goals that I have, and what are some key moments that happen in my life um, that I wanted to share. So I had 3 homework assignments. So just to review, my homework assignment was write definitions of words I did not know, read topics that was mentioned in my intro, and practice my introduction. Now, this week, I didn't get through all of my homework yet. It's only been a couple of days, but I wanted to demonstrate some of my study techniques that I would like to share with all of you. So, as you saw, this is let me see if I can get this right. This was my story that I wrote. So we had the present tense, practicing future, and practicing telling a story about my past. And there are a lot of words I didn't know in Spanish, especially when we started getting into the future and past tenses. So I wrote down probably about maybe 30 words or so, a little less than 30. And these are the words that I decided I wanted to practice this week. So those words were to connect, heritage, to start, to travel, to adventure, the world, physical activity, to play, to explore, nature, fair skin, brown, curly, shoulders, legs, to move, a job, to work, massage therapist, personal trainer, cybersecurity consultant, to be interested, permanently, to get, dog, game, tag, martial arts, to graduate, career, and master's program. My battery is running low, so let me see if I can pause this. I probably can't pause this, so just give me one moment while I get my charger. All right, I am back. Okay, so I started off with, first of all, setting myself up for the future. I knew that I'm going to be creating short stories or a paragraph about certain topics that I mentioned in my introduction. So, for example, I was talking about my heritage and I wrote down a couple of keywords from there. So, I'm just going to go over some of them and you can infer the rest. So, for heritage, I wrote down Cuban, St. Vincent, island, Caribbean, boat, plane, democracy, communism, food. For traveling, I'm gonna talk about Costa Rica, volcano, Colombia, Hawaii, rock climbing, motorcycle, Japan, sakura season, Korea, food, healthcare, Thailand, Muay Thai, Thai massage. Now I'm just going to explain some of the other topics, but I'm not going to go into details of the exact words I'll be mentioning. So adventure, physical activity, jobs, body characteristics. So the first thing that I wanted to do to study is I wanted to practice my vocabulary of the list that I wrote down originally, which is like the 16 or 20 something words. And I created flashcards. Now, these flashcards, this is the Spanish side. So la carrera, la profesión, and career. So I'm going to organize these, and while I organize these, I'm going to give a shout out to my Spanish teacher who actually taught me this technique of how to study vocabulary when I was in high school. I think I was in high school. So I'm just going to organize these cards because I didn't actually do that earlier. And this strategy, I find it to be very easy to learn words in a different language because it uses a technique of just of constant testing of your ability to know the language or know the vocabulary. And it's in a way where it actually doesn't feel that overwhelming. All right, I've organized them to have all the English facing cards in front of me. So I'm going to clear my table and I'm going to show you, even though it's going to look upside down for you guys, I just wanted to demonstrate how this study method works. So I'm going to put down my camera right about there. Okay, so the first thing I did was I separated the words. So let's look at the Spanish words into words that I felt like was easy for me to learn and words that were hard for me to learn. So some of these vocabularies have two definitions because you can say them in two different ways. And I believe when it comes to learning a language, you should be able to have a diverse vocabulary to where you know how to say the same thing multiple times. So if it's common to say a word in different ways, I just wrote them down. Not all the ways, but some of the ways. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it over to the Spanish side. I found this to be easy or medium, easy, 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 because I already knew those words. Easy. This one was hard. These were like three different types of words. Mainly, this was like a verb and two ways and two nouns to describe this word. Hard, easy, medium, easy, easy. Oh, this one was kind of medium. Easy, medium, easy, easy. Okay. So to not feel overwhelmed by all, 20 words, I don't know how many they are, but to not feel overwhelmed, I just separated them into columns from easy to more difficult. So we're going to put these two columns to the side, and I'm going to go ahead and practice my example with you. So we're going to start with the game, right? So the game is pretty much simple. You go through the vocabulary and you just start saying what the word is in Spanish. So we have the world, which means el mundo. I got that right. I put it down. We have animal, which in Spanish it's animal. So I'm going to put that down. In Spanish, as you might be aware of, they have the article in front of it. So la, animal, la and el means like the. And these types of words that go in front of the noun are very important to make sure you have the right masculine and feminine. So animal is male, so los. Personal trainer, entrenador personal. So here's the word. Now I forgot it was el. So can be as tough or as understanding as I want to be, but I really want to try to remember the article before the word to remember if it's masculine or feminine. So because I wasn't sure, I'm going to put at the bottom. To travel, viajar. All right. So we have our first row, which is 3. The next word that I'm going to put on the table would make this first row have 4 words. And the way this memorization technique works is each row has a specific number of words that are allowed to be in the row, and it moves up. So I normally like to go 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, right? And then once it gets to that last 3 level, then I move it out as saying I'm proficient in understanding that word. So for this example, we're only going to go through 2 rows. So we're going to go through 3 words can go in the first row, 4 words can go in the second row. And after the second row, if I got them correct, I would move them into the known pile. So martial arts is artes marcial. You see how I kind of messed up on the word? So I'm going to put it in an I don't know, right? So I'm not very confident. Arte marcial. Hair types. Tipos de cabello. Tipos de cabello. So now I put it in the first row. Remember, there can only be 3 words in this row. So then I go to the first word in the row, the world, and it's el mundo. So I got it correct, el mundo, and I now put it in the second row. And anytime I touch a word, I try to repeat it. So I'm going to move this over. El animal, viajar, tipos de cabello. Okay. So now we're going to explore. To explore is explorar, explorar, explorar. And we're going to repeat. El animal, el mundo. All right. To adventure. La aventura, la aventura. Viajar. Cybersecurity consultant, consultor de ciberseguridad, consultor de ciberseguridad. So I put it in this last row. Massage therapist, la masajista or masajisto. Actually, I think masajista ends in a regardless if it's el or la. I'm not 100%, so I'm going to have to double check that. So I'm going to put that in that I'm not sure. Physical actividad de física. Let's see. Oh, I got it wrong. La actividad física. Okay, so I'm going to put it back in the row. Skin tones. Tonos de piel. Tonos de piel. So I put it in this first row. And now I have to test myself, which is hair types. Tipos de cabello. Tipos de cabello. So now that I'm at the final row for this example, I go to the world. El mundo. Now, if I was playing this game by myself, I would move this to the next level. Because it's just an example, I'm going to put this in the I know pile. Okay, we're going to continue. To start. Empezar. Oh, comenzar. Technically, comenzar is to begin, and actually wrote it down somewhere. To start is another word. So I actually got this definition wrong when I was doing my studying, and I'll show you that in a second. So to begin is comenzar. I got it wrong. It goes in the back. El entrenador física. Oh no, el entrenador personal. But I messed up on the word, so it's going to go in the back. El arte marcial. Let's see. El arte marcial. So it goes here. explorar goes here. Los animales. So I'm using the plural version of animal, so los animales. All right, I finished with those words. Masajista. Okay, now once again, I'm not so sure if this is the correct word. I have to do more research. So I'm just going to put it off to the side because obviously I need to feel confident in knowing if that word stays with an A at the end or an O at the end, depending on if it's male or female. So I have to do more research on that. El actividad física. I got it wrong. La actividad física. To begin, comenzar. Comenzar. And I put this second word here, el comienzo, which just means like the start. So it's not like I'm saying it as a verb, but we'll get into that later. This is just an example of how to play this game. So I've la aventura, viajar, el entrenador personal, tonos de piel, consultar de ciberseguridad, consultar de ciberseguridad, physical activity, la actividad física, el artes marcial, tipos de cabello, Now let's say if I got, so I have no more words for this example. So now I just finish the set, right? So I start from here. To begin, comenzar. To explore is explorar. But let's say if I said something wrong, like viajar, right? To travel. But I thought to explore meant viajar. I would check. Oh, I'm wrong. So it would go back into this bottom section, right? So if you get a word wrong, it doesn't go back in the hand pile that you have. It goes back in the bottom of this game, right? So once the word is in play, it always, even if you get it wrong, it just comes back to the start. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue this game. El entrenador personal, la aventura, la actividad física, got it right. Tonos de piel, explorar, to explore, el artes marcial, And then from here, we're just going to go left to right. Now there's no more words. So we just put explorar in this row. So we always go from the word that's been in the row the longest. So to begin, comenzar. En el entrenador personal. La actividad física. Explorar. And then from here, I've learned these words, and it might take some time to get these words right, but once you do, using this method, you can add in the next batch of words, right? So you can add these words. Now, sometimes you might not want to add both of them. You might want to just work in sections. So if I know these words, I'll put them to the side, and I'll start practicing with this batch. And then once I know this batch, then I can put all of it together and practice all of my vocabulary. Okay. So after I did that, I'm going to open up my notebook. And before I actually did that game, I wanted to practice spelling, because if you don't know how to spell, it's going to be hard for you to remember how to pronounce the words because it's like, okay, well, like for example, trabajo, if I said trabajo, right, if I don't have my pronunciation right, then I might spell it Trebajo, and that's incorrect. So actually what I did before the game was I took a set of these words and I would like connect, and I would write conectar, right? And then once I spelt it right, I would move on. Same thing to play. To play is jugar. So I'd write Jugar. Now, if you're trying to learn a new language, you would want to use the alphabets of the language that you're using. So you would go J U T A R, jugar. I'm pretty sure that's how you say J, right? So I need to practice my alphabet to feel confident. So that's what I did first. This is just my spelling practice. And in Spanish, it's important to know where the accent marks are. So if you got your accent marks wrong, then you know that you don't really know the word because accent marks can change the meaning of a word. From here, this was more of my spelling practice that I did. And now we got to grammar, right? Now, in order to learn a new language, it's very important you understand the grammar, verbs specifically. In Spanish and in other languages, the verb carries the meat of what you're trying to say. So if I don't know anything, right, and I'm trying to communicate, I am playing, and someone asks me, like, what are you doing? ¿Qué haces? And I just say, jugo. It's like I play. Someone can infer the meaning behind what you're doing just by knowing the verb. So this is me practicing my verb conjugations, and I'll turn it around so you can kind of see what I did here. So in Spanish, I was practicing the verb comenzar. And then I was practicing the present tense. I was practicing all these different types of tenses. We have like things you would say in the present or in the future. So like voy a comenzar. So that's saying I'm going to connect. Then I practice my past, and also I practice my future tense, right? So this was just me practicing. Now, once I practiced these tenses, I tried putting them into sentences, right? So these are all the words that these are all the sentences I tried to create using each of these new vocabulary. So for example, when I was practicing my present tense of comenzar, I would say, yo comienzo una guerra. So that means I start, like, I use a question. So it's like, did I start a war? Tú comienzas una lucha con su novia. Did you start a fight with your girlfriend? Él comienza a correr. So one of the things I did actually was use ChatGPT to help me make sure these sentences were correct. So as you can see, there are a lot of like darker marks helping me realize where I made some mistakes. So how did I use ChatGPT? I'll show you. Where's my phone? So ChatGPT is right here. And I actually do have the Plus plan because I use this a lot. So if there's certain services you don't have, then just Google search it. Pretend to be my Spanish teacher and tell me if this sentence is correct. Yo comienzo una guerra.
Grammatically, yes, the sentence is correct. Yo comienzo una guerra means I start a war. It's structurally sound. Subject, verb, and object all align. Just be mindful of the context. It's a strong statement.
So remember, I used question marks when I wrote this sentence. So what does that mean? That means the way I'm saying it might not be conveying what my intention is. So ChatGPT said, I start a war, but I was trying to say did I start a war? So maybe I'm going to try and fixing it. Yo comienzo una guerra.
Gramaticalmente es correcta. Sin embargo, ten en cuenta que el significado es fuerte. Yo comienzo una guerra implica iniciar un conflicto bélico. Si el contexto es metafórico, eso sería cuestión de estilo, pero la estructura del idioma en sí no presenta errores.
I'm trying to say, did I start a war as in a question?
In that case, you'll want to say, comencé una guerra. By using the past tense and the rising intonation, it correctly forms the question.
So this is a perfect example. My intention that I was trying to write didn't translate because I was using the present tense to talk about a past action, right? So to correct what my intention is, I should have said, comencé una guerra, which means did I start, like in the past, a war, right? So this is how I use AI to help me make sure that what I'm saying or what I'm trying to say gets translated correctly. Now, as you could have tell, it started translating the explanation in Spanish. I don't understand Spanish completely, and even though this is great practice, I can always ask ChatGPT to explain it in the language that I feel comfortable in understanding, just to make sure that I'm fully understanding the explanation and then using its Spanish translation or Spanish explanation as a practice for my reading skills. So from here, I wanted to practice understanding how to conjugate in Spanish because a lot of the time Spanish conjugation follows a pattern, right? O, as, a, amos, an. So if you take the last two letters of the verb and you replace it with either o, as, a, amos, an, depending on the subject of who's speaking, then it follows that pattern. So same thing when it comes to past and present. So here at the bottom, I was trying to practice memorizing how to remember how to change the last part of a word to explain if I'm speaking in the present tense, past tense, I think it's improper, future tense or conditional, etc. So from here, I started using this app, and I really like this app. I don't actually know if there's an English version of this app, but for Spanish, it's called AI Verbs, right? And AI Verbs is great for me to practice my my conjugation. So let's go to comenzar. Now, comenzar, if you can tell, has like 10 different ways to say. So first of all, in Spanish, you have three different tenses. You have the indicative, which means more of like factual and, you know, what's actually happening. You have the subjunctive, which is more of how to express like wishes, hopes, doubts. And then you have the imperative, which is more of like how to say a command, right? And each type of tense or mode, we'll say mode, each mode that you're trying to explain has its own conjugation rules, right? So the imperative has two conjugations. So it's either don't do something or do something, right? So it's more of like a command. Whereas the imperative, I believe, has 6 conjugations. So these are some of them. And the indicative. Indicative has the most conjugations, it has 10. Okay. So as I was practicing this, I realized I get confused on the tense that I'm speaking. So for example, let's say I start a quiz. Let's say multiple choice, start quiz. El presente comiencen, ustedes comienzan. All right, so comienzan.
Ustedes comienzan.
So, el pretérito perfecto de subjuntivo, right? I started getting confused on what the tenses actually mean, right? Because in order to practice my conjugation, I need to know what these words mean, past tense, future tense, and I don't know the actual English translation because it's been a while since I've been in English school, right? So learning the grammar types of past, present, future is a lot more simple in English than it is in Spanish. So what I did was I took time and I watched a YouTube video, and I'll actually show you the YouTube video that I watched to help me understand. Okay, let me have to search for it. Spanish tenses. I watched this video right here. So it's by My Daily Spanish, that channel. All the Spanish verb tenses explained in under 20 minutes. And I watched this video and it really helped me understand how to break down the tenses that I struggle with the most, right? So I understand when you're talking in the immediate present how it needs to be conjugated, or the immediate past, or the immediate future, or the immediate conditional, especially for indicative modes or moods. But I was really unsure of like when to use like haber in in the in the conjugation. So basically, it's like to have started, or I had started, or I will have started. So basically, I watched this video, I took some notes, and the notes that I made sure to write it in Spanish. So, for example, pretérito perfecto simple que se han completado en el pasado. So basically, you use a pretérito perfecto simple when you have completed a activity in the past. So this very shorthand, right? I didn't write the full explanation. And I just did that for most of the verbs that I felt like I struggled with, most of the modes or the verb tenses that I struggled with the most. I went through indicative, I went through the subjunctive, I went through I didn't really do imperative because I feel like imperative is easy to understand. I just have to practice it, but I understand the imperative mode, right? Mood. So now we're getting to the last part of my study so far this week, which was reading a topic of my interest. So basically, I read this article. Let's see if I can actually show you the article. So we are going to screen share this page. Excellent, I can. So this is the page that I decided, so actually when I first saw this page, it was in English. So let me see, translate it. Choose another language, English. So when I first searched, and this is search security in Spain. So that's what I did. And then I went to news because news articles are going to be short, pretty much simple. And that's how I found this article. It was written 2 weeks ago. I wonder if you actually saw me do that. Anyway, regardless, here we are. So let me actually to the in English first, which I'm glad because my first objective was to just read this article in my native language. And the reason why this was important is because I wanted to understand the gist of what this article was saying. So I read through this article and I understood what this article was saying. So then, as you can tell, it's pretty short. So then from there, what I did is I translated it to Spanish, which is the language of my choice, my language that I'm studying. Spanish. And it translated it for me. Now, the funny thing about translating words is sometimes it's not always correct. So when you first read this in English, this word was documents, right? But Google translated it to desk. Now, even though this is incorrect, that's okay because your goal is not to translate it word for word. Your goal is to understand how to feel comfortable reading in a new language and knowing that there's going to be some discrepancies. Do I even know what an escritorio is? Okay. Well, I know it's not documents, it means desk, right? So these are just some nuances that I'll keep in mind because this actually might be a common nuance that's seen in the industry. Or this might be just a translation not being 100% perfect, which is expected. And while I do this article, so I wrote down these sentences, and guess what? What malware is in Spanish and these vocabularies. So then I finished reading it, and then once I was done reading it, pretty much my goal is from there. Now let me get back to my. Pretty much my goal from there is to write a paragraph of what I read in relation to something that's important to me. So, for example, I'll probably write a paragraph, something along the lines of this article written by this author explains the threats that companies and the public are having to experience as we're moving into a digital age, especially as cyber crimes are getting easier to commit. This is why this is why I have high hopes in finding a job in cybersecurity because there is a great need for cybersecurity specialists to combat things such as ransomware. Ransomware is XYZ. So that's a paragraph that I'm going to practice writing with the correct vocabulary and the correct conjugations of the words that I have been practicing. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to use different resources like Google Translate, ChatGPT. There's actually a Spanish grammar checker that I'm also going to be used, which is online. It's free. And this is just like get my skills built up in how to write in this new language. Can you guess what my third task is going to be? Practice presenting it. So now I have to practice memorizing what the words are, what this paragraph is, and I'm going to say it to you guys. And really, the idea or the intention is to get confidence in speaking. So, when you're speaking a new language or when you're speaking any language, there are some fundamental rules that you need to be aware of when it comes to what to avoid when public speaking. So, for example, saying you know, uh, these filler words that don't provide any meaning or value or context to the presentation, that's what's most important to correct. So if I write this paragraph and I'm practicing present it, and instead of saying entonces or I just pause and I try to gather myself and repeat the words I'm supposed to say, that's going to give give the audience a lot more confidence in your ability to speak clearly, right? Now, I might get a word wrong. I might not say a phrase 100% correct, but when you're speaking, that's almost not as relevant as those words that are filler words because those words are more distracting than messing up a pronunciation or maybe not getting the exact word order in. So, this is where I'm at with my homework assignment so far. I really appreciate you guys. I hopefully everyone has learned something or learned something new or see a technique that they liked and they get to use it to help them learn their new language. And I just want to say I appreciate every single one of you guys who are out there, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.